every screen you look at is something horrible. I would see roughly 80 to 100 child sexual abuse material images, or if it's on call, I could be seeing from 10 to 10,000 in a day. I think that most of these promises from the social media companies to clean up their acts are just lip service. In the multiple years I was working there, I believe that we were only responsible for catching one pedophile group. I was a contractor working for WhatsApp through Accenture. I was not directly employed by Meta. I was always paid by that contractor company. My job role was to look at images and to discern whether that is child porn or a non-offending image. WhatsApp is actually end-to-end encrypted. Nothing will be shared. Unless one person in that party reports that message, I would get a ticket explaining what has been reported, and then I would have to look at the ticket and I would have to press one of 3 buttons to decide how bad it is from a scale of non-offending to really, really bad. I would just press the button on my keyboard that says it's a red image, and then after that I would never hear a thing again about that. It only took me about 2 months to realize there are systematic failings in the company when it comes to how we action child sexual abuse materials. Whenever we make decisions, the staffer from Meta would give us feedback, and then they would go through this chain of command where client gives the feedback to the QA, and then the QA regurgitates it onto the agents. I would never hear what they had done. I'd never hear if they'd even taken an action. There were many times where I would have seen content that I would have believed is offending. I saw a picture of a boy in Africa in a tire, and he was naked, in distress, crying his eyes out, like some sort of public humiliation ritual. I can clearly see the people around him kind of mocking him and jeering. For me, this is child abuse of some sort. It might not be child sexual abuse, but I can clearly see a child in distress. And when I tried flagging it, they just told me the client said that it's just a green CEI image, meaning that we only delete and we do not report it to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Just because it wasn't sexual abuse, it was just physical. That child is in distress. You know, I can see it on his face. He's bawling his eyes out. And I'm just meant to just move on and pretend like nothing has changed and that I've done a good job. I'm meant to pretend that I actually did what was in my power to help him. And I clearly know for a fact I didn't. Sometimes the background checks on contractors for Accenture clearly must have missed something. When I was working in the child sexual abuse materials team, a German national had joined and he had sat looking at the worst content. He was known for going into the X-ray queue, which is the worst queue of all. You're going to probably see 90% child sexual abuse materials in X-ray. Everyone hated doing X-ray. This man, he was a beast at X-ray. He could spend 9 hours sitting on that queue from start to finish in a little cubicle drinking cans of Coke. He would always sit in the room alone. We had no idea about his background until when suddenly we were told by management, don't speak about this guy anymore. For 9 months he had worked in this child sexual abuse team with us, and nobody had known that he was a pedophile at all. Police had figured out his location and extradited him from Dublin to the UK to face the courts for these charges. The one thing I noticed was a glaring omission in the news. It mentioned that he was a social media content moderator. It mentioned that he worked for Accenture. It mentioned that he worked for a social media company, but it failed to mention that he worked on the child sexual abuse materials team. He was paid to watch child porn. A lot of the times we would get tickets from regions in India, Russia, or Arabic-speaking countries, and we wouldn't have the manpower or anyone that had native translation skills. So often we would have to rely on Facebook's translator tool. And Facebook Translate is not exactly a reliable thing. So say if the translator is not working, a lot of the times we would have had just to let it slide. If someone is bad, I'd also be going checking it to see what bad reasons they violated, and then deciding whether they can come back to our platform. That ban only is in effect for about 90 days, because the theory is that after 90 days, the offending actor would ditch their phone number and probably get a new phone number. If the user returns and emails us and says, "Here, I want to reopen my account," I keep the account closed. But say if the user, they themselves, did the registration process, they can theoretically sign up to WhatsApp just again as if they were a fresh user after those 90 days and come back and re-offend. I have to treat them as a new user, even if I can see in the registration notes it's the same device, same SSL fingerprint, same IP. Meta told us don't treat them like they're a re-offender coming back, treat them as a new user, even if morally every fiber of my being is saying, fuck that guy, he shouldn't be on our platform at all. Since I was in the child sexual abuse team, the only content I was looking for was child sexual abuse. In my multiple years working there, I had never heard of a team specifically actioning gore. I saw very violent cartel killings. I saw a child, an 8-year-old boy in India, decapitated and dead on the street in a ditch, and I would be like, here, is there anyone that can action this person for that? And every single time I would be told there is no team for that. That's a child, and we're the child sexual abuse team, so therefore, like, what the fuck are we doing? We can look at a decapitated body and be like, you know, it's not child porn. Nobody's fucking the dead body, so therefore it's okay, so. Like, it seemed to me that they were more interested in defending intellectual property rights than they would have been into child sexual abuse materials. The only sort of updates that we wanted to focus on was this intellectual property. And they're teaching us, like, oh man, you gotta beware of, like, fake Disney brands or, like, Nike counterfeiters. And I'm like, you guys have completely ignored the child sexual abuse material problem that you have. Like, why the fuck would I care about your intellectual property? I don't give a damn about Mickey Mouse. One thing I had noticed while I was working on call was a predominant workforce that came from India and Brazil. Most of these people would be offered visa sponsorship by Accenture. So the main gimmick would be, hey, come to Ireland. In 5 years' time, you can be a naturalized Irish citizen. And one thing I had noticed is a lot of them were being pushed into on-call. They would be exposed to way more traumatic things in a way shorter, dense time because they don't know that this level of exposure is not normal at all. I would describe the job as a swanky office, and every screen you look at is something horrible. Me personally, I dealt with it through a lot of substance abuse, and that was not unheard of on the floor at all. Or the slow descent into alcoholism, where you see every day people going to the same bar over and over again. The resources mainly provided to us would be this half-an-hour counseling session with this counselor that they would call us like a wellness coach. They were all lovely people, but they weren't really equipped to deal with these heavy topics. It was clear to me that they were ticking the boxes to see whether I was suicidal or not. And since I didn't hit the threshold, they considered me fit to work, even though I was suffering with a lot of mental health problems at that time. And it seems like no one cared. I definitely don't think I'm the same person I was when I started this job. I think I've got PTSD off this now. I think that's something that'll carry with me for the rest of my life. That'll be something that will affect my future. I think that most of these promises from the social media companies to clean up their acts are just lip service. How can you go to a government and tell them that we are addressing the issue when you don't even address us on how to address these issues? I'd imagine that client will always think whenever they see these child porn problems, oh, we have a contractor. They're the ones working on it. It's out of our hands. There were so many kids that we could have helped and we did nothing. We are only there as a PR exercise. We're not there as an actual force to help people. We're just there just so the facade of content being moderated actually happens.